Hello, my name is Christina Schaefer, and today I have a short presentation on George Washington's presidency. So, after the Revolutionary War, once America was free, obviously we needed to appoint a president and get our own system of government going. So, George Washington was that choice for the first president, and one thing that he discovered was that the Constitution was very vague in terms of what the presidency was and how exactly the executive branch of government would work. So this was something that he would have to define according to author Lindsay Chervinsky. So George Washington had served in the Revolutionary War, and he brought a lot of unique experiences with him that allowed him to see what problems with the military needed to be fixed that another president may not have necessarily seen. And some of those things, according to author Glenn Phelps, were the need for authority and ability to use that authority, because Washington had a difficult time in the Revolutionary War getting his men to be reliable, and so he needed to create a better system for the military, and he wanted to really regulate how the military was used and make sure that it was used for the good of the country. And he wanted a training program for the military so that they would be more adequately prepared for whatever would come up. As a person, Washington had a lot of character traits and policies that made him a great leader. One of those, according to Chervinsky, was his attention to detail, in that he chose all of his secretaries for the cabinet on his own. He wanted to make sure that he chose men he believed were prepared and capable and trustworthy to be in the positions that they were in, so that his advisors he knew he could rely on. Now, with his executive privilege policy, he was very selfless in that he would use it only when it was absolutely necessary, and when he had checked with the cabinet, talked it over, and decided that it needed to be done for the good of the country. According to Chervinsky, he would never invoke executive privilege out of his own opinion. He would always do it for the good of the country. So, as I defined in the beginning of this presentation, there were a lot of things about the Constitution that still needed to be clarified and figured out. Some of those include the interactions of the three branches of government. According to Phelps, there was a lot of work to be done as far as defining what each branch would do and where were those lines that didn't be crossed between the branches and their duties. Now, Chervinsky notes that rather than having the Senate assist him with decision making, Washington opted to create his own board of advisors that he could go to anytime he needed help, and that those advisors would assist him in whatever he needed, and that is how the cabinet was created. Now, of course, Washington was responsible for building the Capitol, and Neil Milliken has a great article about the details of building the Capitol, in which is at the end of this video. Now, my personal takeaway from Washington is that he was a wonderful leader in that he wanted to make sure that everything he did was for the good of the country, not for himself. And I believe that leaders today should learn from Washington, because there's obviously a lot of things going on that it is evident that our leaders could be more careful about making decisions for the good of the country. And I believe that Washington was a wonderful example of that, and that we should look to him for what's going on in our country today. So that is my brief presentation of the presidency of George Washington. Here are my citations. Thank you for listening.